Hi everyone, thank you for joining our webinar today, Oracle CloudWorld 2023, reflecting on what we learned. Before we get started, I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items. First, this webinar will be recorded and you'll receive a link to access the recording tomorrow via email. Second, for the duration of the webinar, all participants will be on mute. However, we encourage you to ask questions. If you would like to ask a question, please use the questions box to do so. We will answer all questions at the end of the session. And finally, if you experience any audio or technical difficulties, please use the chat box to let us know so that we can address those issues. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Debra Lilley to get us started.
Thank you very much, Marissa. So thank you for joining. And as Marissa said, we're reflecting on what we learned in Inoapps at Oracle CloudWorld. And I'm really concentrating on the application side of the house because that's really the area that I look at. And this isn't going to be in detail. It's more about the trends and what we think that means to customers and people that are using Oracle. Okay, so a little bit about me. I think this page says that I've got 27 years of experience using Oracle across both applications and technology. And I've worked on hundreds, if not thousands of implementations over those 27 years, both eBusiness Suite and Oracle Cloud. I had the absolute privilege of leading the user group input into Oracle development when the Fusion Cloud apps were being written, and that led to me being awarded Oracle ACE Director, which is part of Oracle's Advocates Program. And I'm very proud of the fact that there are just 3 ACE directors for Oracle applications and that I'm one of them. To me, it's that access to product development and being able to have great conversations with them and understand what they're doing and how that affects the customers that we're supporting. Okay, so CloudWorld happened in the end of September, I think, back in Vegas, and Inoapps were there. We sponsored, as we did last year, the DJ booth, which was just a fantastic, relaxing area before you went into the hustle and bustle of the main conference. And it was just a real chill out place, and really proud that it had our name on it. But what happened once you reached that show floor? What were Oracle talking about? So I thought I'd start with a quote from our CRO. So Fiona Martin is part of the Partner Advisory Board for EMEA. And as part of that, she did some social media during CloudWorld. And she said, you know, that what she gets done in those 4 days is just so much more than you expect. And really about, I think the last part of this quote, ideas that will advance our customers' Oracle journey. So we were there not only to, you know, tell the Inoapps story, but also to find out what Oracle's plans is for their software, because, you know, this is a trade show. It's about their direction. What is it that they are doing, as opposed to necessarily what do we have today. So the main presentation, as you would expect, was from Larry Ellison, and he's a great speaker. And, you know, for all the criticism that he might take, he is so close to what's going on in the organization. Nothing happens without him having a say in it, and he's very engaging when he's on the stage. So his main message was about generative AI, and, you know, that's the buzzword of the moment. We're all hearing about it, and, you know, he got up on stage and he said, this isn't new. Elon Musk has been doing this. He had his OpenAI, but where that failed, or where that didn't get the traction, was that the neural networks were just not big enough. There were just not enough power and collective intelligence in what Elon Musk was doing. But that's changed. What happened over the last 12, 18 months is taking that up to a different scale. Chat GGP is trained on what's public, the internet, Wikipedia, and that caught people by surprise. There's lots of concerns. Is it going to mean that students are not going to have to do their own homework? They can just get AI to create it. Governments were worried about what did that mean from a security point of view. The recent strike in Hollywood, a lot of that was to do with, is someone going to write the next episode of my sitcom in my style, and then I not get the credit for it? So, it has caught people by surprise, and fear comes in probably because we don't understand it all, but that will settle down. And I thought that what Larry did very, very well at CloudWorld was he used analogies, and I love analogies, so it resonated with me, but he used analogies to try and make his point. And what he said about this was that, what comes next is this race to get the next level of AI, to make it better, but that there are risks in that technology. And he likened that to our first technology, fire. Look at all the things we can do because we have fire and we've harnessed that, but there are still risks with fire. The same with nuclear. And, I think that to me really resonated, that this is exciting. The possibilities are endless, but we have to be careful. We have to understand those risks and we have to mitigate those risks. And that may require, safety rails or government legislation, but it's still very exciting. And then he talked about some of the things that are, this is going to make, self-driving cars. We have that, but Oracle are talking about getting into that business, helping with drug design, clinical voice assistants, things that are going to just add that edge to things that we're already doing today. So the first thing I'd like to do is just step back from what Larry was saying and make sure that we're all on the same page. I think that we're in that stage with generative AI, which is we think we know what we're talking about, but let's just step back and make sure that everybody is. I remember when cloud first came out, every presentation started with, what is cloud? And my favorite analogy for explaining the different types of cloud was this diagram on the screen around pizzas, right? It seems so simple now. We understand the different components within cloud, but for that first 12 months when cloud came along, it was something that you heard all the time. What is cloud? So if we think about generative AI, I've been looking to see what the definitions and what does that mean here. So generative AI is about using artificial intelligence technology, which we have had for a while, to produce content, text, pictures, audio, and then that tech target are saying that this current buzz is the simplicity of the user interface for creating that generative content. So it's now the technology is being made available to us all, and then it's the use cases. What can we use this for? And they're not talking about Oracle specifically, They're talking about increased use of chatbots. They talked about deep fakes, and I think that goes to the, what I was talking about the risks, but improving movies, educational content with languages, writing email responses, dating profiles. Not sure I like that one. Resumes and term papers. Again, there's that risk there. Photorealistic art in a particular style. Better product videos, new drug compounds. Writing music in a specific style or tone. The recent Beatles release. That was an interesting use of the technology. So that's what TechTarget are saying about it. But I also came across this analogy, which I really liked, because I like pictures and I like analogies. But think about making a cake, right? So the input, the question is, make me a cake. And the network there is looking at all of the recipes that they have and then producing a cake. But then we look at that cake and we evaluate it and we decide what might be wrong with it, what needs to be amended, and we can fine tune it. But we can also train that model even more by adding more recipes, more information, and that neural network or large language that's there, that's about getting more and more of that data in there. So this was the analogy that I saw online, but I have a friend who has written a column in an IT magazine for the last 20 years in Scandinavia, and he's using ChatGPT. He has trained it on all of the content that he's had over that 20 years. And what he's using it for now is whenever he talks about a new subject, it is prompting him with things that he said previously, so that he can refer back to previous articles, which he can't remember all of the things that he's written about in that 20 years, but it's purely about his data. He's not looking at other people's data at the moment. But then he gets it to generate the next bit of content that he wants, and then he fine tunes it with his ideas that are new to that piece of work. So again, before we go back to what Larry was saying at CloudWorld, let's have a quick look at what Oracle is saying their AI strategy is for generative AI. So they have a partnership that at the technology level, at the chip level, is giving them the power to run the enormous processing that's required to run the AI. They have another partnership with Cohere that's giving them these large language models, that's giving them the science that's needed for this. So Oracle are not into being the AI machine. What they're into being is giving you the platform for that. So they're taking two best of breed parts that you need for generative AI, and they're hosting them or making them available on their infrastructure, which allows their customers then to take that functionality. And then what Oracle will do is then embed generative AI into their applications. And if you think about it, that's what they do. Oracle has phenomenal technology, and then that technology is used in their applications, but it may also be used by any organization to create their own. So the infrastructure will allow you to go off and do your own generative AI, but Oracle will harness what they need for their SaaS. And this is for their Fusion applications, their their industry applications, the biggest one of which is health, so the Cerner acquisition, and their NetSuite applications. And so that's what their generative AI strategy is. And what they've done, as well as underpinning that with OCI, they needed to enhance their database to actually give it a data type that could allow them to ingest the sheer quantity of data that's needed for these training models. And that's part of 23C, the vector data type. So Oracle are enabling, facilitating the generative AI that people want to use. And actually, generative AI goes back further than Elon Musk. You know, chatbots were the first that we had, and we've had chatbots, well, they first happened in the 60s. So what you will see is some things will be reclassified as AI. That's not to say that AI is just a buzzword and let's just call everything AI. That's not true, but you will see some things like chatbots or digital assistants in the Oracle world will be reclassified as AI, and some of the analytics stuff. But that's just me trying to level set what they mean by generative AI. So back to Larry. So basically he said they are faster. So with NVIDIA, they make it faster, and they cheaper for the storage, which means that you can do these massive AI projects. And he gave the example that genomics data has normally been used and discarded because the sheer volume of data that's involved in that industry has just been too expensive to store. And that won't be a problem going forward because Oracle are making it cheaper to have that vast amounts of data and the speed in which to process it, and it won't need to be discarded. With the Cohere, again, he gave a great analogy here. He said that think of Cohere as the university that you send your child to get their great foundation. So this is the models, so this is the technology that allows you to have the model. But Oracle in their industry is training of those models. So using the anonymized data that they've got in health to train models is like going to law or medical school. So you need that really great foundation, but to actually home in something, then you need to go to a specialist. And Oracle, through their industry apps and through a lot of their applications, have enough of that raw anonymized data to enable the generative AI that they want to put into those applications. And then I've already mentioned this, but their vector data type in 23C allows that training data to be loaded better. So he then talked about some things that were going to happen specifically in Oracle, and Oracle's analytics platform that's used for the applications is called, well, in my world, in the Fusion world, is called Fusion Analytics Warehouse. And that's going to be renamed the Data Intelligence Platform, because actually, when you bring this functionality into analytics, it's more than just analytics. It's going to help you with trends and more information. So that's going to be renamed the Fusion Data Intelligence Platform. And I've just actually been on a call with the product managers in the analytics, and so there'll be a health data intelligence platform for Cerner, and there'll be a NetSuite data intelligence platform for NetSuite. Oracle are also using it to write code. Now, I found this quite scary, but basically, having trained the models, they can use it to, with their low-code Apex, they can generate code in their autonomous database for prototyping. So they're not saying we're getting rid of all of our developers. That's absolutely not what they're doing. But the first cut of functionality that they want to trial and then embed into their applications, they can use generative AI to do that. What Larry said was we can have smaller teams so we can be doing more stuff at once. It's going to be quicker. There'll be no security bugs. There'll be a better UI because having trained on what you should be doing, it will be doing what it should be doing. Whereas individual developers may vary, may deviate from standards. However, quite interestingly, Adrian Ping wrote a blog about going out and trying this. So very, very soon, this is an Apex guru, and very soon after CloudWorld, he went out and gave it a try, and his blog contains quite a lot of insight into what he found there. But Oracle are doing this in their Cerner New Millennium or their health apps and some of their industry apps, just this prototyping of what they're building. And then interesting, there was a blog published just this week from Oracle where they're talking about some of the previews of the generative AI that's going to be delivered in Fusion HCM. It's a very good article, and if you're in the HCM world, definitely worth looking at it. So if you go to Oracle's website, there is a number of examples that they give. In financial services, they're talking about analyzing documents and then helping with fraud detection. Helping, the generative side of this, helping create new job descriptions, generate customized career plans, helping with blog topics in marketing, helping with, we've talked about software development, automating case summarization. I can look at tickets that might have 80 backwards and forwards from a customer and the supplier. Imagine being able to take all of that and summarizing it would be fantastic. So these are some of the use cases that Oracle are talking about that they are working on at the moment. Sorry, I should go back a little bit. When I get to Steve Miranda talking about applications, he talks about their plans for generative AI. So this here is Oracle sharing some of those ideas. Perhaps I should have put the slide after Steve's. Teach me for next time. The other big thing that Larry talked about was multi-cloud. So just prior to CloudWorld, there was more announcements between between Oracle and Microsoft, and they were talking about putting Exadata machines inside Azure. And he talked about that was a bit like going back to open systems. But what was quite interesting was two things. One was that both Microsoft and Oracle had agreed that if somebody moved from one cloud to the other, between the two of them, they weren't going to charge them anything to leave, which is something that people have always worried about in cloud, were exit costs. But I also, it wasn't said, but it was implied that, the other clouds should step up and join them. That they should, people are using multi-clouds, so there should be more alliances between the cloud vendors. So that was quite interesting, and I'm sure we will see more on that. Safra Katz is less technical, and she would tend to talk about the what does the Oracle technology deliver to customers rather than the bits and bytes and how does it work. So Safra had a number of customers in her session. Again, incredibly well attended, in so many people listening live to it, and then catch up afterwards. But she had a series of customers. So she had Uber talking about their point of sales, Oracle point of sales in a car, the pure volume of transactions that happens in Uber, and how this had helped them going from just moving people around to going and getting your takeaway and bringing it to you. So go and get rather than just moving people around. She had an organization that was professional services, and they were using the Fusion customer experience modules. She had a retailer in Canada, not just any retailer, but their biggest retailer. And she talked about them choosing Oracle Cloud Infrastructure to run their SAP on. Right? When did you think an SAP customer would be sat on the stage in a keynote at Oracle? So they talked about how Oracle Cloud Infrastructure was giving them a more reliant, more cost-effective run of their SAP applications. They talked about an organization that needed to get rid of their data center and how they moved everything from their data center, not just their Oracle applications, but all of their IT from their data center to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and it gave them better efficiency, better costs, just very, very successful. She talked to a customer who had moved from SAP and eBusiness Suite to Fusion in a very minimum viable product, so how to get there quickly and then build it out. If you've seen the recent announcements from Oracle about Oracle HCM now, that's that concept, the concept of going in quickly, getting return on your investment really quickly, and then building out more and more functionality. I'm really pleased that Inoapps are part of that program, and actually it was very simple for us to get into that program because we already had our Evolve methodology that does that, not only for HCM but also for ERP. But Safra here had a customer talking about exactly that, how to get there as quickly as possible. And then she had Emerson talk about moving their EBS onto OCI, but their HCM going to the cloud applications. Now, what I liked about these 6 customers were they were all very realistic and very familiar use cases. They weren't the massive, I have Oracle wall to wall, I'm the biggest organization in the world, I'm whatever. They weren't those massive, massive stories. They were far more relatable. They were far more, these are the things that I see every day in customers. I need to do this, I need to do that, you know. And in the past, sometimes there was an arrogance in Oracle that made customers believe that they weren't the right fit for it because they weren't the biggest in their industry, because they weren't wall-to-wall Oracle, because they weren't the sexiest industry. Were they the right people for it? And I thought that Safra really hit the mark. She really had relatable use cases and very different use cases that I think resonated with far more customers than if she'd just had 1 or 2 there talking about their massive implementations. So I actually thought it was very, very good. And then the one I was really excited by was Steve Miranda. So Steve Miranda heads up all applications, but he was talking about the Fusion applications, and he talked about B2B. Last year, he talked about Chase Finance. So if you listen to CloudWorld last year, one of the big things that he talked about was, hey, if your organization is using Oracle and the organization that you want to pay, in this case it was Chase Finance, or if your supply chain, if your distribution is done through FedEx, and they're both using Oracle, why don't we cut out the middleman and do it from one application to the other, rather than having to you know, raise an invoice, get it approved, go out there and pay it, etc. Right now, all that process happens in the background, but it's automated, and so you still have the full audit trail, but this idea that Chase Finance and FedEx signed up last year to work with Oracle on B2B, just a very powerful way of taking that technology one step further and allowing you to just to be more efficient. So this year he talked about extending that with MasterCard and HSBC Bank. And this was actually really powerful for us in Inoapps, because not only do we need to know this for our own customers, but we use Oracle and we happen to bank with HSBC. So our founder and CEO was asked if he was interested in being an early adopter on that, and we've had a couple of follow-up sessions with it since, and we're currently analysing our usage and how this would work, and we're working hand in hand with Oracle development here. So really great opportunity to be a step ahead of what Oracle are doing. But it just shows you that, you know, Oracle promised continuous innovation, and you know, things like this are real innovation. This isn't tweaking how you know, the fields on a page, or just allowing you to collect a little bit more data. This is real additional functionality, improving not only the system, but that modern best practice that they talk about in their system. I've already mentioned that Fusion Analytics Warehouse is going to be change its name, but Steve covered that as well. And then he talked about the generative AI. So you know, Larry talked about enabling generative AI and a promise that it would be in the applications. So when Steve came on stage a couple of days later to do his talk about the applications, there was this expectation that he would talk about what that meant in the applications. And he had a couple of customers with him. I'll come back to the AI in a second, but he had a couple of customers with him. I love this quote. This CIO said that he wanted the IT to help his customers not be a hunter-gatherer for Excel. I love that idea, that the organizations run on Excel. I remember in my own experience, a customer telling me that their job was to have an amnesty for Excel, one spreadsheet at a time. We still don't have that nirvana, but it just appealed to me. He also had a healthcare provider that talked about when they did their first analysis, there were a few gaps for them. There were a couple of things that they would have to extend. I really wanted to get up on the stage and say, please don't use the customization word, because we extend cloud applications, we can't actually customize them. But he said, go brave, go be brave, go live. You know, the system is being innovated over and over again. Every 3 months you get an update. Go live, get that 80% of the return on investment that you want, and, you know, and build in, have your own cadence of adding to it, getting more and more from it. If you wait till everything's perfect, you might not ever do it. So he was talking about being brave and doing it. And then he had another customer who talked about the adoption of modern best practice and how Oracle modern best practice is helping organizations of all sizes grow. And I see this a lot. I talked about evolve methodology just then, but that's very, very important for mid-market organizations. Organizations that might not have been Oracle before. You know, this being cloud has enabled them to step into the world of top tier applications that can support them as an organization now and as they grow. And for them, modern best practice is something that they really need. It's not, they're not saying, oh, that's not the way that we do it today. They're saying, how should we be doing it? And so this customer was talking about how Oracle has this brilliant balance between giving you all the best practice, but also allowing you flexibility through configuration to allow you to take the bits that's best for you. So that was Steve's presentation. On the generative AI part, he said that, yes, some things were being reclassed, and I talked about digital assistant there, but in the next 2 releases, there were over 50 examples that were being released. And that blog that I referred to earlier is some of those examples that Oracle are bringing in. But what it actually said, and I love this because I've seen it over and over again, Oracle can bring out new technology, and the development team will say, oh yes, here's an obvious example of how we'll use that. Here's an obvious example of what our customers will want. But the gap between delivering that and customers adopting it is as customers identify more and more use cases that will drive efficiencies in their business. So if you're an Inoapps customer now, you'll know that last year Oracle held a competition for partners to showcase use cases for their My Experience functionality, and we were really, really proud to have won an award for ours. Well, what we took was an existing challenge, which happened to be using subcontractors, and use that new technology to solve all of the challenges that having contractors brings to an organization. And what Steve's ask of the audience was, tell me where AI will help you. So he talked about, he gave some examples which were on that slide that I had earlier, but I was at lunch with one of our customers and I said to her, what excites you most? And she said, I love the idea that generative AI is going to write my contracts for me. So today in the system, she has all of her clauses in separate fields, in separate records on the system, and when they're determining a contract, she picks out which terms refer to that particular contract, and it just produces a list, one record after another. The promise of generative AI is that it will write that as one document referring to that, but bring it all together in a far more easy to understand prose. And that's what Steve wants. He wants customers to say, this is what I want, and this is the value that it will give to me. So I thought that Steve's session brought that down to the customers and gave the customers that opportunity to say, this is what we want. And they'll do that through Customer Connect, and they will collect those use cases, and we will see more and more AI being delivered, not just the 50 that they've got planned for the next 2 updates, but more and more will come from customers who say, this is where we think it should be. The examples that he gave, I've talked about contracts, financial narrative. You know, a few years ago, there was this big push to make numbers come to life in our reports, put notes in them, etc. Imagine the generative AI doing that. I'm not an accountant or a mathematician, but I can remember when doing some director training, being given accounts for 2 different years for an organization and being asked what happened between one year and the other. And, you know, the idea that generative AI could bring that to life for me really excites me. Employee profiles. It's much better than that idea of dating profiles, I think, and goals creation. And actually, you know, not necessarily the employee profile, but if we go back to that dating profile that Top Tech talked about, it might be more realistic because it's going to take it on your data. So that was the keynotes from the areas that I personally was interested in, which was more around the application side, but it's all about the technology that powers that. So back to Fiona and her comments, you know, she says here, customers are already discussing their ideas with us. They were, definitely. And one of our customers was there in force, and this is the customer that we were having the conversation with around the contracting. That really appealed to them because it's something that they do a lot of. Sort of to sum up before I go into questions, we weren't just there to learn, we were also there sharing some of our experiences as well, and we had 5 different sessions, so there was lots of information sharing. Oracle had, you know, several hundred sessions from partners, from customers, from industry leaders, and you know, we were part of that as well. Unfortunately, I didn't get to an awful lot of them, but being able to drill into the ones that were of my particular interest. And, you know, big pat on the back to us. We got an award there for our managed services expertise. This was actually for EMEA, but that's something that we also do in North America, and I'm assuming that a lot of the people that are on this call will be our customers and will already be aware of that, and it's great to be recognized by Oracle as a leader in that. So really, to finish, I just picked out some pictures of us having some fun, but you can see here on each of these pictures it says Ask Inoapps, and so I hope that this presentation has, you know, just that top level of what did we get out of CloudWorld and what were the things that we think are of interest to our customers. Anything that you read in the press, any blogs that you saw, Oracle or otherwise, they all talked about the generative AI. And I hope what I've done today is take that back, level set it, and then talk about what Oracle mean by that, how they are going to enable the best processing of all of that data, how they're going to enable the best language models for that generative AI, and how they're going to use their aggregated data in their applications, but also allow you to use your data in your applications. So I hope that this has sort of picked that apart a bit, made it easier to understand, and given you something to think about. And then, you know, ask us, what does that mean for you? if you've got a use case, if there's something that you want to do. So with that, I suppose the only thing I've got to say is, are there any questions?
Thank you, Deborah. That was great. We did have a few questions come in while you were speaking, so I'll go ahead and go through those now. And just as another reminder, if anyone on the call has a question, go ahead and take that into the questions box and we will get Deborah to answer it for you. So the first question was, generative AI, do you think it's just marketing or a serious prospect for Oracle's cloud apps?
I think it's serious. I don't think it's just marketing. Marketing from a brand point of view, the whole industry is talking generative AI as a brand, but what they're doing is saying, so here's what we've already got, and I use that example of digital assistants, right? But here's the promise of the future, and Oracle are delivering. Now, I think that's why it's really important that they are keeping up the conversation. And if you look, like I gave the example of that blog, they're telling you what's going to be in those next ones, the things that are under construction today. I think at the beginning, I said that Larry said the next thing that will happen is there'll be a race for an organization to come up with the next version of generative AI and get through that. I think probably the thing that's holding it back most today is that concern, you know, where he talked about technology has risks. People are still, you see people who are using generative AI today, but you also see other organizations that are still assessing the risk. And I think that's more of a stumbling block than it being a marketing play. I hope that answers it. Come back to me if it doesn't. Reach out to me on email if it doesn't.
So the next question that we got was, I'm interested in knowing more about the HSBC functionality. Can you say more about that?
So I can't say a lot more than what they're allowing you to do is, so it's HSBC and MasterCard together. And what they're saying is a virtual card allows you to purchase using the vendor's card technology. And they're bringing that into the system so that if you're a HSBC customer, you can pay your suppliers. It means that you can pay them quicker, which means you might get a discount because you're giving better payment terms, but you don't lose any of the control over invoices on hold or different things like that. And so the concept is very straightforward. The functionality at the moment is in process, but if you are interested in it, Oracle are still looking for people to be part of that first wave. So reach out and we will put you in contact with the right people in Oracle. But I'm talking to Oracle at the moment about how much can we say at each stage, because I'd love to write a blog about each stage of the process. But the timescale is very quick. We are hoping that we will be live with something, even the minimal viable bit, within a year. Okay, hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate it. So the next question that we got was, you mentioned the Inoapps sessions at Oracle CloudWorld. Are they available online?
So the individual sessions at CloudWorld were not recorded. If I just go back to that one, okay. But the three on the left, so the first one is around road mapping, so the end-to-end, so Apps Unlimited road mapping. And then the next one is around moving to OCI. And the third one is around living in the cloud, or managed service type scenario. Those three, whilst they don't have that those titles, we will have done webcasts ourselves. So if you go to the Inoapps web pages and look at our webcasts, there will be ones that talk about those 3 topics. The 2 on the right are both around Visual Builder. And actually, I was blown away at CloudWorld last year. If we talked about Visual Builder last year, and this is a way of extending both within and outside of Fusion Apps, I would have been lucky if I had half a dozen people in the room. There really wasn't the uptake on it. Both those sessions were full and the room took 200 people. They weren't recorded. We haven't done any Inoapps ones yet. I'm repeating one of them with Oracle on Thursday, I think, at a Quest user group event. But if you have any questions on using Visual Builder with Fusion Apps, then again, reach out. So the 3 on the left you can find in our webcasts. The 2 on the right we haven't done yet, but reach out. And if we get enough questions, we will not only answer those, but perhaps we'll do another webcast on those.
Great, thank you, Deborah. And if you don't mind, could you just flip back to the questions slide? Thank you so much. So that was the last question that we had submitted. So I just want to thank everyone again for joining today. If there are any additional questions that you'd like us to answer for you, or if you would like to have a personalized conversation with us regarding your Oracle applications or roadmap, please use the contact information seen here on the screen to reach out to us. But again, thank you so much for joining the webinar today. I hope you got a lot of value out of it, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much, everyone.